Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually when we crack open a stack of research like this, technical manuals, implementation guides, it can feel a little bit, I don't know, dry.
A little like homework, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But today, this feels different. It feels like we've gotten our hands on the blueprints for, like, a bank vault.
That is a pretty dramatic start, but honestly, it's a surprisingly accurate comparison.
Because we aren't just talking about tech support today. We're talking about the gatekeepers.
Hmm.
The research we're covering is all about Microsoft Entra ID. And I have to admit, I still catch myself calling it Azure Active Directory. I feel like I'm dating myself every time I say it.
You and half the industry, it takes time to shift gears, but that name change is actually pretty significant.
Oh, really? How so?
It signals a shift in philosophy. It's not just a list of names on a server anymore. It's become the central nervous system for access across your entire digital world.
And the headline from the sources is pretty stark. It says, "Identity is the new perimeter." That sounds like a cool movie tagline, but let's unpack that. What does that actually mean for someone, running a business?
Okay, think about the old days. Picture a medieval castle. You had a moat, high walls, a drawbridge.
Right.
If you were inside the walls, you were safe, you were trusted. If you were outside, you were blocked. That was your perimeter.
A firewall.
That was your firewall, exactly. But look at how we work now. The castle's gone. Your data's on a server in Dublin. Your user is at a coffee shop in Seattle.
On a phone they just bought.
Right. The firewall is irrelevant because the user isn't behind it. The only thing standing between a hacker and your data is that user's identity. If I have your password, I am you. I'm inside.
That is terrifyingly simple. So the perimeter isn't a wall, it's just a username and password.
Ideally, a little more than just a password. But yes, that's the core concept.
So our mission for this deep dive is pretty urgent then. We need to figure out how to lock that identity down without making everyone's life miserable.
That's the eternal trade-off, isn't it? Security versus just let me do my job.
Always.
Precisely. And the documents we have show us how to bridge that gap. We're going to look at automating the boring stuff. We'll tackle the absolute nightmare of personal versus corporate devices.
And my favorite part?
And we're going to look at how to stop lighting money on fire with bad licensing.
I do like the sound of stopping the money burning. Let's start with the human element, though. The user.
Okay.
Now, the research leads with a distinction that always trips me up. Authentication versus authorization. In plain English, they sound like the same thing. Just let me in.
They feel similar, and people use them interchangeably all the time, but mixing them up is really dangerous.
Okay, so break it down for me.
Think of it like a high-security office building. Authentication is your ID badge. It proves you are who you say you are.
Right. You show it to the guard.
You flash the badge, the guard looks at the photo, looks at you, and says, okay, you are you. That's it.
So authentication is just identity confirmed.
Right. But authorization is the key card embedded inside that badge. Just because the guard knows who you are doesn't mean you can open the door to the server room.
Huh.
That permission, that is authorization.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
So I can be authenticated, proven real, but not authorized, not allowed to touch the important stuff.
Exactly. And Entra ID handles both. It's checking your ID and it's checking your keys. Now, within the system, the research highlights that not all users are created equal. There are 3 specific types you have to deal with.
Okay, the first one seems straightforward. Cloud identities. I'm guessing this is just what it sounds like.
It is. This is the born in the cloud user. You go into the portal, you click new user. They exist only in Entra ID. If you delete them there, poof, they're gone.
Simple. But most big companies aren't just in the cloud, right? They've got history.
Baggage. We call it legacy infrastructure, but yeah, baggage works too. And that leads to the second type. Directory synchronized identities.
So this is the hybrid approach.
This is for the massive enterprise with racks of servers in a basement running the old school Windows Server Active Directory for like 20 years.
And they're not just going to delete 20 years of data on a Tuesday.
Definitely not. So they use a bridge, a tool called Microsoft Entra Connect. It just sits there and watches the basement server. When you create user A in the basement,
It copies them up to the cloud.
exactly. But and this is key, the source of truth is still the basement.
Source of truth. I love that phrase. It sounds so philosophical.
It just means who's in charge. And in this case, the basement's in charge. You can't change that user's password in the cloud portal. You have to change it on-prem and then wait for it to sync.
So the cloud is just a mirror.
A mirror that lets you log into cloud apps, yeah.
Then we have the third type, which I found the most surprising, guest users. I assumed this was just for, like, a contractor, but the documentation says you can invite anyone,
Literally anyone.
even someone with a Gmail account, or, and this was in the official documentation, an Xbox LVE account.
It sounds funny, but it's a massive flexibility feature. Let's say you hire a freelance graphic designer for a 2-week project. Do you really want to create a whole new corporate account for them? Manage their password?
No, that sounds like a huge hassle for me and for them.
Exactly. So you invite their identity. You say, hey, gamertag123@outlook.com, come on in. They use their own password. You don't manage their credentials. You just manage their access.
It's like giving your neighbor a temporary key to your house, not building them a permanent bedroom.
That's a perfect analogy. You're granting access, not ownership.
Speaking of cutting access,
Yeah.
we have to talk about the hoops factor.
Yeah.
You're cleaning up accounts, you're rushing, and you accidentally delete the CEO.
That is what we in the industry call a resume-generating event.
Yeah, ideally we want to avoid those. Is there an undo button?
There is, thankfully. It's called soft delete. When you hit delete, they aren't scrubbed from existence instantly. They go into a kind of suspended animation.
Like the recycle bin on my desktop.
Similar, but for people. They sit in that state for 30 days. In that window, you can restore them, and it's like nothing ever happened. Email, groups, licenses, it all comes back.
But the warning in the text was pretty ominous about day 31.
Yeah, that's the cliff edge. On day 31, soft delete becomes hard delete. And the docs are brutal about this. There is no secret backup tape. There is no super admin you can call. Once it's hard deleted, that identity is vaporized.
If you delete the CEO, you better realize it within a month.
Or, start updating your LinkedIn profile.
Duly noted. Okay,
Yeah.
so we've got our users. But if I'm an IT manager with 5,000 employees, managing 5,000 individual permissions sounds impossible.
It is impossible. You cannot scale individual management. That's why the sources pivot so heavily to group management. You have to stop thinking about people and start thinking about collections of people,
Our herding cats strategy.
if you will. The idea is you assign permissions to a group, say, marketing team, and then you just drop people into that bucket. They inherit everything.
The docs mention two main flavors of buckets: security groups and Microsoft 365 groups. I'll be honest, the difference wasn't immediately obvious to me.
It comes down to intent. What are you trying to achieve? A security group is strictly a gatekeeper.
Okay.
Use it when you just want to say, these people can open this door. It's about access control.
And the M365 group.
That's about doing work. When you create an M365 group, you aren't just making a list of users. The system actually spins up resources for them. It creates a shared email inbox, a shared calendar, a SharePoint site.
No, it's a whole collaboration workspace.
Exactly. So if you just want to lock down a sensitive HR folder, use a security group. If you want a team to work together, use M365.
Now, here's where the automation kicks in, the dynamic membership. This sounded like actual magic to me.
It's the closest thing to magic we have. In the old days, HR hires someone, and admin has to manually click Add to Marketing Group and then Add to U.S. Employees Group.
Manual data entry, the enemy of joy.
And the source of human error. With dynamic groups, you just write a formula. You say, if a user's department attribute equals sales, add them to this group.
So the system just constantly watching user profiles.
Constantly. The second you update a user's department to sales, bam, the system grabs them and drops them in the group. They instantly have access to everything they need.
And the reverse. What if Bob moves from sales to HR?
This is the best part. The system sees the change. It rips Bob out of the sales group and puts him in the HR group. He loses access to sales data instantly.
That's huge for security.
Yeah.
I feel like access creep is a real problem, people just collecting keys to every door they've ever walked through.
It's a massive vulnerability. You have people who have been at a company for 10 years, and they still have access to intern folders from 2014. Dynamic groups clean that up. The rule does it for you.
I love it. Okay, let's shift gears. We've got who the users are. Now let's talk about what they're using, the hardware.
The classic struggle. Users want to work from a beach on their personal iPad. IT wants them to work from a lockdown laptop in a cubicle.
Entra ID seems to offer a middle ground. It lists 3 device strategies. And the names are confusingly similar, so I want to break them down. First up, Microsoft Entra Registered.
Think of this as the light touch. This is your bring your own device, your BYOD scenario.
Right. I want to check work email on my personal iPhone.
Exactly. And you don't want the company to own your phone. You don't want them wiping your family photos.
Absolutely not.
So you register it. You add your work identity just to the app, like Outlook. The company can see the device and enforce basic rules like you must have a PIN, but they don't own the device itself.
Okay, that's the casual relationship. Then we have Microsoft Entra joined.
This is the committed relationship. This device is owned by the company. It's corporate property. When you turn on the laptop, you don't sign in with a local account. You sign in directly with your work email.
So this is for the modern cloud-first company. Remote workers, maybe?
Perfect for them. You ship them a laptop, they log in, and boom, all their policies come down from the cloud. No servers needed.
But then we have the Frankenstein monster, hybrid Microsoft Entra joined.
It is a bit of a monster, but it's a necessary one. This is for those companies with the basement servers. They have thousands of laptops already controlled by the on-prem server. They can't just flip a switch.
So they do both.
They do both. The laptop talks to the basement server and it registers itself in the cloud. It's a dual citizen. It has a passport from both countries.
There's a specific technical detail here that sounded like sci-fi. Device write back. What is it writing back and why does it matter?
Okay, so imagine a security guard at the cloud gate. You try to log into Office 365. The cloud guard looks at your device and asks, is this device encrypted? Is it compliant?
Standard security questions.
The problem in a hybrid setup is that the cloud might not know the answer. The basement server knows the answer. Device write-back is the communication loop that lets the cloud and the on-prem world agree on the state of that device.
So without write-back, the cloud is flying blind about the device's health.
Exactly. And you might get blocked from your email because the cloud guard thinks you're a stranger, even though the basement server knows you're totally safe.
That makes it much clearer. It's about keeping the bouncers on the same page. Okay, users, devices. Now for the part that makes CFOs sweat. The money. Licensing.
The economics of access. This is where so much money gets wasted.
The old way was just manual, right?
Yeah.
I hire you, I go buy a license, I tick a box next to your name.
Right, and then you change roles, and I forget to untick the box. And I'm paying for a license for 6 more months that you don't even need.
Ouch. So the solution is group-based licensing.
It ties right back to those dynamic groups. You assign the expensive license to the executives group. When you add someone to that group, they get the license. When you remove them, the license is reclaimed automatically.
What? It sounds perfect. But the research had a huge section on troubleshooting. Apparently the robot isn't always smart.
Well, the errors it gives are actually really revealing. They're like detective clues telling you exactly what went wrong.
Okay, let's run through the big ones.
Right.
Count violation. I think I can guess this one.
Yeah, you're broke. You bought 100 licenses. You tried to give out 101. The system says no.
Simple enough. What about mutually exclusive violation?
That happens when you try to give a user 2 things that can't exist together. Imagine you have a basic user group that gives a simple version of a service and a power user group that gives the full version.
And I accidentally put Bob in both groups.
Exactly. The system looks at Bob and says, whoa, I can't give you the cheap one, and D, the expensive one. They conflict, and it throws the error.
Okay, that prevents a mess.
Yeah.
The next one is dependency violation.
This is the cart before the horse error. You try to assign a license for an add-on like Workplace Analytics, but the user doesn't have the base license for Office 365 yet. You can't analyze email if you don't have email.
Makes sense. Now, the last error was the one that really caught my attention because it feels so relevant now. Prohibited in-usage location violation.
It is a mouthful, but it's a huge compliance trap. Microsoft services aren't legal or available in every country on Earth due to sanctions, local laws.
So every user has to be tagged with the location.
Yes. You have to set a usage location. If you say a user is in a sanctioned region and you try to assign a standard Office license, the system will just block it. It won't let you break the law.
That is fascinating. It's a legal firewall, not just a technical one. Now, for the listeners who are panicking because they have thousands of users assigned manually, how do they switch?
You don't just rip and replace. That would be a disaster.
So what's the safe path?
The guys recommend a layering approach. You keep the manual licenses active, then you apply the group license on top.
Doesn't it double bill you?
No, and that's the clever part. Entra ID is smart enough to see it's the same product. It only consumes 1 seat. So for a few days, the user has the license from 2 sources. Once you see the group license is healthy, you can quietly remove the manual assignments.
And the user never notices a thing.
A completely seamless handoff.
Smooth. Okay, last section. We've covered the essentials, but the research touches on future-proofing, specifically something called custom security attributes and SCM.
These are the power user tools. Custom security attributes are for when the standard job title and department fields just aren't enough for you.
Like if I want to track security clearance level.
Exactly. Or hourly salary band. But here's the clever part. You don't want your regular help desk admin to be able to see everyone's salary.
Right, that's private data.
Entra ID lets you lock these specific attributes down. So a help desk admin can see a user's name, but only a specialized compensation admin can even see that the salary attribute exists.
A vault within the vault. Smart. And finally, SCI, System for Cross-Domain Identity Management.
A massive acronym, but it's a lifesaver. This is the bridge between HR and IT.
How does that bridge work?
Think about the new hire process. HR types the data into their system, then what? Usually they send an email to IT saying, please create an account for Bob.
And IT gets to it 3 days later.
Right. SCM automates that. The HR system talks directly to Entra ID. HR gets hire, and the account is created instantly in the cloud.
But the real value isn't hiring, is it? The research seemed to suggest the real value is in firing.
100%. This is the nightmare scenario. HR fires someone at 9:00 a.m. They send an email to IT. IT is at lunch. That person still has access to everything for hours.
You can download the client list, delete files.
A huge security gap. SCM closes it, HR hits terminate in their system, and SCM instantly sends a kill signal to Entra ID. Access is revoked in seconds. No human delay.
That is the definition of identity as a perimeter. It's real time. So let's zoom out. We've moved from manually typing in names to a system where HR triggers a robot.
The robot builds the user, puts them in a dynamic group, pushes a license, secures their iPad.
And locks the door the second they leave.
It's a complete shift in mindset. You stop being a data entry clerk. You become an architect. You design the rules, and the system manages the people.
And you can sleep better at night. Rules don't get tired, and they don't forget to revoke access.
Exactly.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. It goes back to that usage location error. We live in a world of digital nomads now.
It's the new normal.
So here's the provocation. If an employee takes a workcation to a region where your software license is legally prohibited or where data privacy laws clash with your corporate policy, is your identity system smart enough to catch that before they log in? Or are you compliant only on paper?
That is a very uncomfortable question for a lot of companies. The gap between policy and reality is often much wider than we think.
Something to mull over. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.